Welcome back. Today, we're focusing our sonic microscope on a real classic, the MXR Phase 100.
Ah, yes, the big one.
Exactly, the big
Right.
brother in their phaser family.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes called the MX107, now the M107 reissue.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission today really is to cut through some of the, let's say, the forum myths and the technical confusion that's built up over decades.
Yeah, there's quite a bit with this one.
Right, this isn't just, oh, it sounds cool. We really need to nail down its unique controls, figure out the depth and feedback stuff, and maybe finally put that stage count debate to rest.
It's definitely the perfect pedal for this kind of deep dive. I mean, when the Phase 100 landed, this was mid-70s, it really shifted things in modulation.
I saw.
Well, you had the Phase 90, which was, everywhere, simple, classic. But the 100, it was clearly positioned above it. It gave players a much broader sound palette, more sophisticated, and definitely more configurable.
Configurable, yeah.
It was really the first serious alternative if you wanted something more complex than the standard phasers of the day.
And that configuration bit. That's exactly where the mystery kind of starts, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Most phasers are dead simple.
Mm-hmm.
Speed, maybe a depth knob if you're lucky.
Right.
The Phase 100 gave us that standard speed knob, fine. But then there's that weird four-position intensity rotary switch.
An intensity knob.
Okay, let's unpack that.
All right. So the speed knob, thankfully, is pretty standard. Controls the LFO rate, the low-frequency oscillator. Makes the whoosh go faster or slower. Simple.
Easy enough.
But the intensity knob, that's where the MXR engineers got clever. Or maybe a little confusing depending on how you look at it.
Right.
Historically, MXR's own catalog copy was a bit vague.
Uh-huh.
They described intensity as changing the squeak width and also including regeneration options.
Regeneration. Okay,
Nah.
in pedal terms, that means feedback, right?
Exactly. Feedback. It feeds some of the phase signal back into the circuit.
Which makes it more intense, more resonant.
Precisely. It emphasizes those resonant peaks, makes the whoosh much more pronounced, chewier, more dramatic.
Okay, wait. So if it's a four-position switch doing width and feedback, why do you sometimes see people, maybe in modern articles or forums, talking about these positions as four preset waveforms, like sine, square, that kind of thing?
Ah, yeah, that's a really common misconception.
Is it just wrong?
It's basically an attempt to map analog behavior onto digital era concepts. It's trying to simplify something that's actually a bit more complex under the hood.
Okay.
The four positions aren't really selecting different LFO shapes in that modern sense. What's actually happening is you've got two switch poles working together inside that rotary switch.
Two poles. Doing what?
So technically speaking, those poles are changing two key things simultaneously. First, they adjust the notch emphasis.
Notch emphasis.
Yeah.
How sharp the peaks and dips are.
Kind of, yeah. How aggressive the phase effect sounds. And second, they alter the LFO drive.
LFO drive. So the depth or the range of the sweep?
Exactly. It impacts the overall depth and width. So you're not choosing sine wave fast or square wave slow. You're choosing something more like position 1, gentle depth, minimal feedback. Or position 4, wide sweep, strong feedback.
Ah, okay. That makes way more sense. It's like a hidden depth and feedback matrix, but it's presented as just four intensity settings.
That's a great way to put it, a depth feedback matrix.
For just the listener, practically speaking, this knob lets you go from, say, position 1, which might be a really subtle shimmer,
Right, very gentle.
all the way up to position 4, which gets really thick and chewy, like a resonant filter sweep sound.
Absolutely. It totally transforms the pedal. It can cover territory you'd normally need, a vibe pedal for, or even some resonant filter stuff, depending on the speed and that intensity setting.
That range really justifies why it was the big brother to the Phase 90 then.
Definitely. It gave you options the 90 just couldn't touch.
Okay, and speaking of justification, let's dive into the big one, the technical contradiction that seems to follow this pedal around forever.
Ah, the stage count.
Right. Here's where it gets genuinely messy. Why, after 50 years, do we still see really reputable sources arguing about whether the Phase 100 is a 10-stage phaser or a 6-stage phaser?
This is such a classic gear debate. It really boils down to marketing colliding with technical definitions. It's all about terminology.
Okay.
And the confusing part is both claims can be sort of argued as correct, depending entirely on what you mean by a stage.
All right, break it down. Let's start with the 10-stage claim. Where does that come from?
That number, 10 stages, that's what you'd find in the old MXR catalogs, their official literature back in the day.
Okay, so official MXR info says 10.
Yes. And for them, the stage count was pretty straightforward. It was the total number of all-pass filter sections they actually built into the circuit.
Right. So on the circuit board, there are 10 of these specific filter components. So they called it a 10 stage. Seems simple.
From a manufacturing perspective, yeah, component count.
But then, why do so many techs, players, the people actually using and analyzing the pedal, often insist it's really a 6-stage unit?
Because they're often using a functional definition of stage, not a component count definition.
Functional, meaning what you actually hear.
Pretty much. See, a phaser effect works by creating these moving frequency notches, the peaks and troughs in the sound. That's the whoosh. And typically, in these designs, it takes 2 of those all-pass filter sections working together to create one clearly audible moving notch.
Okay, 2 sections per notch.
Right. So when techs analyzed the Phase 100's output, they heard 3 distinct, clearly moving notches sweeping through the frequency spectrum.
3 notches times 2 sections per notch. Okay, that equals 6 stages.
Exactly. Their argument is, look, if only 6 sections are contributing to the moving phase effect we hear, then functionally it's a 6-stage phaser. The other sections might be doing something subtle, but they aren't creating the main sweep notches.
So the whole disagreement is just defining stage differently. Manufacturing count versus audible effect count.
That's the core of it. Is it the raw component inventory, or is it the functional audible result?
Wow.
So when you hear 10 stages, think marketing, think circuit board layout. When you hear 6 stages, think audio engineering, think about the sound it makes.
That clarifies so much. So if you're out there researching or buying and you see these conflicting numbers, now you know why.
Exactly. And it matters because, you might see another company selling a 6-stage phaser that sounds totally different, maybe much simpler. The Phase 100 has that richer, wider sweep, partly because it has those extra sections influencing the tone, even if only 6 are creating the primary notches. It's complex.
That is super helpful context for anyone comparing specs. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk history, the vibe, the character of this thing.
Sure.
Looking back at the original run, mid-70s to early 80s, collectors always talk about script logo versus block logo units. Why the big deal and the price difference?
The logo wars. Well, the script logo units, those are the really early ones, roughly 74 to maybe mid-75.
The very first ones.
Yeah. And they're prized because, well, they represent that initial almost boutique phase of MXR before they scaled up massively. There can be slight circuit variations in those early ones, component differences.
A bit more hand-wired feeling.
Sort of, yeah. And some people perceive them as sounding a bit warmer. Maybe the sweep is slightly different, more complex. Plus, rarity.
And the block logo came after.
Right, from 75 through to the end in 84. Those are much more consistent, great pedals too, absolutely solid. But the script just has that early era mystique for collectors.
And those vintage units, script or block, they had some quirks, right, by modern standard.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They weren't exactly pedal board friendly in the way we think of it now.
Like what?
Well, the 2 big things. No LED indicator.
Right. You wouldn't know if it was on or off unless you heard it kick in.
Exactly. Stomp and pray. And crucially, no DC power jack. Battery only.
Constantly swapping 9 volts. No daisy chains.
Nope. Pure battery power back then.
So when Dunlop eventually brought MXR back and reissued it as the M107, they obviously addressed those points.
They did, thankfully. That was a huge plus for players today. The M107 reissue keeps that core sound, the speed knob, the 4-position intensity knob, that's all there.
The important stuff.
Right. But it adds the LED, thank goodness, and a standard 9-volt DC input. Makes it actually usable on a modern board without hassle.
Okay, let's talk about that core sound then. If the Phase 90 is that classic, maybe simpler swirl, how does the 100 really stand apart sonically? What's its signature?
It's just more. More movement, more headroom, I'd say. The 90's great for adding texture, sitting in the background doing that fast Leslie-ish thing sometimes. But the 100, it can really step forward and be the main event.
How so? Describe the range.
Okay, so at lower speeds and lower intensity settings, like position 1, maybe 2, it's lush, a really nice, gentle shimmer. Great for chords, doesn't get too overpowering.
Cuddle.
Yeah. But then you crank that intensity knob up to 3 or 4. That's where the feedback, the regeneration really kicks in hard. The sweeps become super chew, much more aggressive, very resonant. You start getting into that throbbing, almost liquidy territory.
Like a univibe or a rotary speaker.
Exactly. Especially with the speed knob turned up, too. It gets into that quasi-vibe, resonant filter sweep thing. It's a much stronger effect than the 90.
So it sounds like it can really change your guitar tone, not just add a layer on top.
Definitely. It can dominate if you want it to.
I've seen intensity 2 or 3 mentioned a lot as kind of the sweet spot. Why there?
Yeah, that seems to be a common finding. I think it's because positions 2 and 3 give you that really wide, deep, pronounced sweep, that classic big phaser sound, without maybe getting too resonant or muddy, which position 4 can sometimes do if you're not careful.
So 2 and 3 are maybe the workhorse settings for that quintessential Phase 100 whoosh.
I'd say so. They deliver that really rich, noticeable phasing that made it famous. Positions 1 and 4 are great too, but maybe more specialized textures.
And speaking of famous, we should probably touch on the lore. It gets associated with a lot of classic prog rock, right? Like Genesis, the Trick of the Tail era stuff.
Absolutely. That record is often cited. It was definitely a sound favored in productions that wanted complex, layered textures in the mid-70s.
Perfect for that.
Yeah. Back then, modulation wasn't just a little seasoning. It was often a core part of the arrangement's sound. The 100 gave producers and players the depth and, crucially, the control via that intensity knob to make it work in dense mixes.
Makes sense. Okay, just to quickly nail down the modern specs for anyone building aboard the M107 reissue.
Right. The current Dunlop one, it's pretty efficient, actually. It uses hardwire bypass.
So no tone loss when it's off.
Correct. And the current draw is low, around 6 milliamps, which is tiny.
Nice.
And standard impedances, too. 500K ohm input, 3K ohm output. Basically means it plays nice with other pedals, won't mess with your signal chain, and doesn't need special power.
Good to know. Easy to integrate.
Yeah, they built it smart for modern use while keeping that that complex analog heart. And really, if we zoom out and connect this all together, the Phase 100's lasting appeal, it isn't just nostalgia, it's that it offers real, tangible control over the phasing effect through that unique intensity matrix.
And that dip feedback thing.
Exactly. It's proof that simple-looking controls can hide some really complex and powerful sound shaping underneath. It's not just a one-trick pony.
So wrapping this up, what does this whole deep dive mean for you, the listener?
Well, the Phase 100 is just a perfect example of how confusing gear specs can get, especially when marketing language clashes with technical language, like that whole stage count business. When you run into conflicting info about gear, always ask yourself, okay, are they talking about the components inside, or are they talking about the sound that comes out? Now you kind of have a key to decode that, at least for phasers.
It's a good question to ask about almost any effect, really.
True. Okay, so let's leave you with a final thought to chew on, circling back to those vintage units.
Those old Phase 100s, right?
Yeah.
Often no LED, no DC jack. And they frequently need work today sometimes, just replacing the internal foam that disintegrates and gums up the works.
Yeah, that foam rot is a common issue.
So for the vintage collectors out there,
Yeah.
if a pedal already needs internal restoration just to function properly, maybe just to replace that foam, how much historical accuracy are you really losing if you also add modern practical things, like an LED or a DC jack, during that restoration?
Ooh, that's a thorny one.
Right. Where's the line between preserving history and making a classic tool usable and reliable today? It's something to think about if you're chasing that vintage swirl.